Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Attendance Bias. I am your host, Brian Weinstein. Today's guest is fire dancer Kate of Austin, Texas. You know, at the beginning of this podcast, I was surprised that so many guests picked shows from 1999, but now that we are 2 years into the show, a new trend has developed: Phish's holiday runs. For a multitude of reasons, many special moments in Phish history happened during the holiday run. By now, at least 6 guests have come on Attendance Bias to talk about a personal experience they've had from one of the legendary Phish shows between December 28th and 31st of any given year. For this episode, Kate picked the cream of the crop, Phish's show from December 30th, 1997 at Madison Square Garden. While the 1994 and 1995 holiday runs have been covered on Attendance Bias, this is the first time that the 1997 run of shows has been chosen by a guest. It's a personal thrill for me because this was the stretch when I saw Phish live for the first time. For Kate, it wasn't her first time, but you'll hear how this show, on the 30th, was the time that she got it and decided that she was all in on this band that we all love so much. So put on your best speakers, get your lunch boxes full of olive loaves and fried eggs, and make sure that you make the last train out of Penn Station as Kate tells her story about the December 30th, 1997 show at Madison Square Garden. Kate, welcome to Attendance Bias. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian.
My pleasure. Very excited to talk about the show today that you chose, which is December 30th, 1997 at Madison Square Garden. Normally I have a printout or at least a big document on my screen so I remember the date and the location of the show the guest chooses. I don't need that today because this show is completely embedded in my DNA, and you're the guest, so we'll hear your side of it, but I am just so excited to talk about it with you.
I'm excited to talk about it too. Brian, I don't think we have attendance bias at all. We were there. We know this is an awesome show.
I actually was not there. I was not. My attendance bias is for the night before, the 29th, because that was my first show.
You told me that was your first show, so I just assumed you came to the whole run.
If you ever want to hear about the one that got away, every fan has it, right? The show that you've wanted to go to, or you had tickets for and couldn't make it, or for whatever reason you couldn't get there. The 30th was my one that got away. I was very young, but my friend called me the next morning on the 30th, the day after my first show, and said, "Hey, I have a ticket, an extra ticket. I'm not going, but my friend has it. Do you want it?" And I was 15 years old, very young in Phish life. And I was certainly not ready to go to a show by myself, let alone going to see the same band 2 nights in a row was a foreign concept to me at the time. And I said, no, that's okay. And if you really want to hear the kicker, the next day when I saw the set list, I looked at it and said, oh, well, they didn't really play a lot of songs I know, so it's all right that I missed it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I feel like this is exactly what I want to talk about how this is. A lot of the times I didn't even know half the songs that they were playing. And it was the first time I was hearing all of it. And, you know, it was my third show and it's the night I became a fan for life.
Everyone's got it. And this is as good as any other. And I would argue better than most. But before we get into Phish or hearing about you as a fan, I am thrilled to talk to you because you do something that I've never seen or heard of anyone else doing, and that is you are a fire dancer, quite literally.
Yes, I am. And I've been doing it basically my whole adult life. I saw fire dancing for the first time when I was in college. I was living in Berkeley, California for the summer in a group co-op house, students from all over the world. And there was this woman who was part of the UC Berkeley Polynesian dance troupe, and she was practicing poi dancing in the backyard. And gosh, I mean, we're just like, oh my God, she's dancing with fire. Like, that looks amazing. And, with no agenda that I wanted to, that I was going to take to it or get good at it or anything. I'm just like, I want to try that. So I did. And I'm a reasonably coordinated human because I grew up doing, dance and cheerleading and sports. So yeah, I picked up fire dancing and, haven't stopped since 2004.
And it's made, you or fire dancing in general are made for visual art, for photography, because even if you're bad at it, and you are not, but even if one is, it looks cool as hell.
It does look cool as hell. I mean, I always say that to beginners, don't be intimidated because everyone looks cool on fire.
And how can people see you on a regular basis with fire dancing?
Well, yes. So I live in Austin, Texas, and I am part of a performance group called the Purple Bee Crew. And Purple Bee is a professional recording studio and live stream production soundstage. It's just a little bit east of town. It's all musicians and dreamers making live music experiences that we aim to entertain and connect.
And that's
So
Purple Bee, BEE, as in the insect, right?
yes, purple like the color, bee like the insects. I mean, we're building a hive and it's pretty sweet. So, how you can participate with us is that we broadcast all of our shows on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, and also in the metaverse on Decentraland. So, if you don't need to have a crypto wallet to do Decentraland, you can just sign up on the website, sign in as a guest, and wander around our virtual stage. So we have lots of ways to connect with people, whether they're in Austin or beyond. And so every Wednesday we do a show, and it's called the Wednesday Groove Party. And there's two house bands, Jagtronica and Lobos. One is a little bit more electronic jam. The other one is a little bit more just a groove-driven music. But we play 3 to 4 hours of improvisational music every single Wednesday. And we have a jam wheel. So if you donate to the show, we spin the wheel of jam and that seeds whatever the next song is going to be. So all kinds of different musicians. We have an MC who raps on top of tracks. We have me doing fire dancing. We also have a visual artist who's doing live visual art that gets beamed over the show too. So we have a lot going on. It's pretty cool, actually. I mean, I heard that fishy people tend to like type 2 space jams. You should watch our show. You were home on Wednesday doing your laundry anyway. Tune in.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the crossover between Phish fans and spacey funk jam. So I am in. I'm a little afraid of the metaverse, though, I have to say. Being 39 years old and raised on a steady diet of internet thrillers from the early 90s when people didn't really know what the internet would become, and it always ends in some evil way. I'm a little afraid of putting on a VR helmet, but I can easily watch you on my screen.
Well, to participate in our metaverse stage, you just need a normal laptop. You don't need to have an Oculus or anything like that. And I mean, I always put it on Twitter and Instagram every week about it. And here's the link to our Decentraland stage. So, if you ever catch any link that I post, just click right on it. It'll take you to Decentraland and you can sign in as a guest, make your little, avatar guy, and then it'll drop you right into our stage and you can wander around and see what we're doing.
And anyone listening, I will put any links to Purple Bee or to any of these broadcasts in the show notes. So if you are interested, just check those today.
Well, I also wanted to share that we're doing a special show to benefit the Mockingbird Foundation in early March. So all the donations that we raise on that show are going to go to the Mockingbird Foundation.
And as those details get hashed out and come together, I'll be sure to help share that information. So it sounds like a really wonderful event. And so we hear a bit about you as a fire dancer and your shows coming up, fundraisers, but let's back it up a little bit and let's hear about you as a Phish fan through the attendance bias lightning round. You ready?
Yes.
Attendance bias lightning round.
All right, Kate. So when was your first Phish show?
So my first show was December 30th, 1995. So Brian, I'm 2 years older than you. I was 15. And growing up in New Jersey, my friends and I heard that Phish was playing for New Year's. We were really excited about it. So we went to Tower Records, got in line, to buy tickets. And we got there really early. And we were really excited being first in line. And then about an hour later, everyone who got their wristbands while we were in like third period or whatever the day before all showed up. So we got kicked to the back of the line. So we weren't able to buy New Year's Eve tickets, but we bought New Year's Eve tickets. And
Sure.
That was my first show.
What was your most recent show and what did you think of it?
Oh my God. Okay. My most recent show was Vegas. So I guess it was the last show and I loved it so much. I know that Sci-Fi Soldiers is kind of a love-hate thing, but I am definitely on the side of love. I mean, and I think the whole music has a pretty strong message too, that if you can get out of your own way and take the proverbial knee out of your head, you can clear your mind. And also, I have to say, like, I went to Vegas kind of on a whim. I didn't really have any plan. I just sort of, threw a bunch of stuff in the bag and was like, okay, I'm going to Vegas last minute because tickets came together last minute. So I was listening to the show from the night before Halloween with my roomies, getting ready for the show, and we're listening to Harpua, and they're talking all about Holy Blankenstein is the voice of Iculus. That I just announced to all my friends, guys, that's my costume. I'm going as Holy Blankenstein. Holy Blankenstein is a rancher because I have cowgirl stuff with me. Holy Blankenstein is a rancher who owns all the land at the bottom of Mount Iculus. I mean, we were all laughing so much. We invented this really elaborate backstory. I mean, we didn't even know what we were doing, right? We're just being silly creative, just getting ready for the Phish show with your old best friends, right?
That sounds like Phish in Vegas for sure.
Totally. So, we go to the show and the whole entire time, like I'm introducing myself to people. Hi, I'm Holy Blankenstein, voice of Iculus. I own all the land below Mount Iculus. And then the Sci-Fi Soldiers happens and it's all Holy Blankenstein and everyone around us, because, I've introduced myself as, Holy Blankenstein to everybody, is like, what? Anyway, so I really, really hope there are another couple creative souls who were doing the same and had completely different interpretations of Holy Blankenstein in the same arena, but I loved it. We had a blast.
If you had to pick one Phish song to fire dance to, what would it be?
Well, Fuego, duh. I mean, duh. I do my own stunts.
I shouldn't have even asked that. That's a question that answers itself.
But honestly, Fuego is a good answer because the song changes tempo a lot. It's an interesting song to dance around to. Like Fuegos go places.
If you were to introduce someone who wanted to learn about Phish, what would you give him or her?
Well, I would give them what got me into Phish, is a live one. I mean, a live one is super accessible. It also really captures the spirit of live performance, which is, a lot of the magic of Phish. And, the songs are all amazing. I mean, gosh, high school me, like that stash, it's been love ever since,
There was a good maybe 4 years or so that when I was not first driving, because I didn't have a CD player in my car yet, but the first car that I did have that had a CD player, a live one just never left. It was just a permanent resident. It owned the car CD player.
Seriously. I mean, my whole family had to listen to a live one because I listened to a live one.
My mom had to listen to A Picture of Nectar over and over and over again because I didn't have a license yet when I got into Phish. And I just remember her saying, tweezer again? What is this with the tweezer? Because
what is this with the tweezer?
Yeah, because it closes with tweezer.
Amazing.
Well, of course, but they close it with tweezer reprise. So she wasn't expecting that after the track proper, after Tweezer the song, and she thought Tweezer was over after that ended. And then when they closed the album with Tweezer reprise, that's when the again with the tweezer would come in. God bless my 1990 Volvo 740 GLE. Say a prayer for it. Yeah. What is your most controversial Phish opinion?
Okay, and this is a controversial one, Brian, because people don't like to hear it.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here. I like to hear it, even if I don't agree with it, but I don't know what it is yet.
Okay, well, my controversial opinion, and this is an opinion that a lot of people have about really great songs like Reba and Prince Caspian, but you say this about the song I'm about to say too, people get real bent out of shape, right? So I think Ghost is a boring song that ends in a great jam. So Ghost is a perfect song to go run your show errands. If you need another bottle of water, get it at the beginning of Ghost. You'll be back with your friends by the time the good part starts. You need a bathroom break. There will not be a line. I guarantee you, you'll be in and out. I mean, Ghost, do it.
Right now, as you were speaking, I have a pen in my hand and I was just opening and closing the cap about 10 or 12 times, not only because I disagree with you, but because I feel the same way about so many songs. And the way you just verbalized it, it was almost like a therapy session where it was like hearing someone else say it made me come to my own conclusions that I have to deal with. Because there's a lot of songs that in the beginning of it, I go to the bathroom, I go get a beer, whatever, because I know I'll be back in time for the good stuff.
Exactly.
And a lot of people won't like it.
Good stuff. Ghost is always good stuff once they're done with the song part of Ghost and they're just playing the jam of Ghost.
On your more positive level, what is your favorite post-show snack?
Oh, tacos, clearly. I mean, make every day Taco Tuesday.
Fair enough. Taco Tuesday and then Fire Dancing Wednesday.
That's exactly right.
Can't go wrong. What a back-to-back midweek. What is the weirdest thing you've ever seen at a Phish show?
Jeez, I mean, there's so many weird things at Phish shows.
I know. That's why it's so fun.
I mean, man, I almost feel like just even like my friends are the weirdest thing I see at a Phish show.
No one said that yet. That's a great answer.
But seriously, I mean, my friends are the best. I mean, just silly and random and ridiculous. And every single time, I mean, we've invented this song like to the tune of Jefferson's Starship, You Built This City, but it's in Commerce City, we rocks and rolled. I mean, just having a blast doing silly, like it's like the little things that are just, make you delight in seeing your best friends and why you do it several weekends a year and why 20 plus years later, you've been to over 100 shows. Just the math works that way.
When was this show played?
So let's time travel 25 years, coming up on 25 years. Right now, it's only February, but come December, we're going to have a reckoning of our own mortality. 25 years since this show, December 30th, 1997. The 97 holiday run was made up of 4 shows from the 28th to the 31st. And most previous holiday runs bounced from one venue to the next. And later holiday runs, which we're familiar with now, and a lot of newer fans would be, are mostly consecutive shows at the same venue, mostly MSG or Miami, of course. But this one is kind of unique because the 28th was played at the US Air Arena, Lord knows if it's still called that, in Landover, Maryland, which is a venue they've only played once before and haven't played since. And then the 29th to the 31st at Madison Square Garden. I still haven't heard that 28th show, by the way. Have you?
No, I haven't either. I feel like I just learned. I mean, actually, I just put up Fishnet so I could look at the set list while we were talking. And I didn't even realize there was a show on the 28th. To me, this holiday run is just 3 MSG shows.
Right. And I feel like most people figure that. Anyone listening, if you were at that 28th show, give me a call. Come get in touch with me because I want to hear everything about it. The only thing I know about it, without looking at the set list in front of me, I remember hanging around Madison Square Garden before the 29th. I just hearing some guy go, "Oh, they played Cities last night? Cool." So that's all I know is that night they played Cities. And I'll just have to go back and listen to it. But the 97 holiday run, the way I see it, it was like a victory lap after this incredible year, the summer tour of 97 and that unbelievable fall tour of Phish Destroys America. And it only ended that tour about 2 weeks before these shows. The last show of that tour was December 13th in Albany. I've always considered the holiday run to be an extension of that fall tour, but apparently I'm the only one. I put a poll out on Twitter with the question, does the 97 holiday run count as part of the fall tour? And it was something like 8-1 votes where people said, no way, what are you, insane? But it sounds the same.
I've never thought about that before. I mean, I feel like the New Year's run is really kind of its own jam every single time because, it leads up to, the whatever the Stomp for All Lang Syne is going to be. It's the start of a new year. You're not totally wrong. It has a lot of the same, synth effects that they didn't really do previously. I mean, I guess we'll talk about it later, but especially when, Harry Hood is very, very Space Jammy, like even right at the beginning, it's, just listening back through this show with, my current play with a group of Space Jam guys every week eyes, I'm like, wow, this is a show it's very like the type of music that we all currently play. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah, they were ahead of their time for sure. And this holiday run, at least as far as I remember and know, had no real theme or special gag compared to the ones that came after it. I mean, even 98, when I saw 3 out of 4 shows, had that kind of garden and a dancer set up with like caterpillars and stuff dancing around and fairy dancers. And every run thereafter had a big moment for New Year's Eve, which, we now call the gag. And the closest thing to something, a running theme in this would be, I guess, the Utter Ball, which is what we'll talk
the
about
Utter
later.
Ball.
Yeah. And then the debut of New York, New York for the encore on New Year's Eve, the Sinatra song. But other than that, there was nothing really cohesive. It didn't build up to anything, which I'm not saying is a criticism or is a compliment. It just is or was, I guess.
Well, I feel like this show is the crescendo with the, the Utter Ball and Tom Marshall and like all of it, I mean, that was like the whoa, standout, wow effect of the weekend. But then the next night when they played it, or, when they harkened back to the Utter Ball again, I mean, people were laughing. I mean, it was, oh my gosh, it was like the best, it was like, yes, I mean, I just remember that as like, it's the same feeling of, I mean, for instance, I was at the Meat Stick New Year's in, 2013, that like the big, or maybe that was 2011.
It was 2010.
2010. Yeah, I don't know. Early 3.0, I get all my dates, whoosh. I'm not the professional archivist. I'm the fire dancer that you're interviewing. But, it's that same feeling of the like, yes moments that, you still have that without the big elaborate stage show, because we had the big elaborate stage show the night before during this show that we're talking about.
Yeah, and it really is. I can't scream the way you just did, but I'll let you have that one. This show, because of my attendance bias, in my opinion, is forever locked in like a wonderful battle that compares it with the 29th. I don't want to talk about that too much because this episode will never end, and you are the spotlight here. But while the 29th features like impeccable segues, all-time greatest versions of at least 4 songs are in the conversation.
Theme from the bottom. That's the best theme of the bottom ever. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of the best Antelopes ever. And Tube. I'm all right. I'm shutting up about that because I'll just go off on the worst tangent in the world.
I was there too. We can appreciate that show.
Well, yeah. But that's my point. It's like you almost can't talk about the 29th without mentioning the 30th and vice versa. It's 2 sides of a coin. If you put both of them together as like a double show release, official release, which Phish eventually did, to me, it's the perfect encapsulation of what Phish is or not is, but was, and what they could be. It's everything great about the band in the course of 2 nights. What I love most about this show on the 30th, and of course, we'll get more detailed about it, is it kind of showcased the goofiness of the band, whereas the 29th is more about fluidity and musical dexterity, setlist choices. This show is more about like anything goes at a Phish show.
Anything.
Right?
Yeah. Anything and everything goes at a Phish show.
So before we dig into the song-by-song breakdown, give us a little bit of background, Kate. Who were you in the winter of 97 that led you to this show?
Well, so you were 15, I was 17, I took the train. I was staying at my parents' house because that's where I lived. And, took the train with my high school boyfriend from the town that we live in, the Kneebone connects to Penn Station. So, and in the late 90s, parents let their kids take trains places.
Of course, that's how I got to the show, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the helicopter parents weren't a thing, and you knew you were going to be in really big trouble if you missed the last train home. So, they trusted us to go. So, took the train to Madison Square Garden, walked upstairs, found our seats, and mean, I remember old Madison Square Garden, we had 300 level tickets and we were kind of in the center of the arena, like right where the scoreboard is. So we had just the wide open bowl view of everything. I mean, it was awesome.
So why did you pick this show? Of all the shows you've attended, why does the 30th stand out to you personally? Why do you have attendance bias?
Well, I don't think I have attendance bias at all. I think this is one of the greatest Phish shows that ever existed, and it's the night that I became a fan for life. I mean, I was already a big fan. This is the third Phish show I went to. Like I said, 1995, December 30th, that was my first show. And the 30th, so, it's my first Phish-iversary show I got to go to. Then in 1996, when Phish came and played at Madison Square Garden, it was weeknight shows. And, there was no convincing my parents that I could go see Phish on a weekday night.
It was a Tuesday, it was a Tuesday and a Wednesday, the 21st and 22nd of October.
Yes. So I could not go to those shows. So this was my next opportunity, I was 17. Phish was playing. It was over Christmas break. It's not a school night. Going to all the shows was definitely allowed. Got good grades the semester before, so it was okay. Used my babysitting and lifeguarding money to pay for tickets from mail order. When the Doniak Schweiss would be sent in the mail and tell you all the funny updates in between Phish shows. I mean, I love that stuff. I mean, getting Mike's Corner in the mail, like. Oh, loved it so much.
Set 1.
The opener of the first set really makes a statement here. They open with Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley, and if it were 2022, it would be exciting. But this was a completely out of nowhere left field call, because for anyone who would check the set list on .net, this was the first performance of this song in, according to .net, 920 shows, maybe the biggest breakout ever up to that point.
Yes, I remember because, we, of course, you befriend your seat neighbors.
Always. That's what this show is all about. It's like I want to talk to people as if I'm sitting down next to them at a show and we're just swapping stories.
No, absolutely. So, my high school boyfriend and I were at this show and we're very young for being there. And a couple of people around us, were making a really big deal. They're like, oh, Sneaking Sally, they never play this. And we're like, well, we don't know this song. Great. They never play this. So, for us, it was completely fresh eyes. And, I didn't even have the internet until I was away at college. So, it's not like I had any rec music Phish friends or anything to, know that this was, or I didn't even have tapes yet, like a live one was my first and only, live Phish recording I had access to at that point in life.
And it just really sets the tone. I also, by the way, I had quite a few tapes actually, but I still never knew this song. This is the essence of, like I told you, when I checked the next day and said, oh, well, I didn't know a lot of songs they played. This kind of set that tone for me as a noob. I didn't know much about it, but listening back to it, this is like a perfect choice for 1997, considering their funk style at the time. It's almost surprising that they didn't play it that year before this date. You could hear how excited they are. I wrote in capital letters on our notes at about almost 10 minutes, funk siren alert. Like, that's how you know it's on.
super funky. I mean, I loved re-listening to this show and reliving it because, I mean, between you and me, I feel like I always just skip right to the McGrupp. And so, doing this like really had me like, oh yeah, the whole entire show is awesome. Like don't discount the whole rest of it.
And the rest of it goes right into Taste at the end of Sneak and Sally segues. It had been around since 1995, but they kind of futzed around with it before settling on it in Europe, summer 96. And 97 was a great year for Taste. Polyrhythms, piano, guitar, there were leads all over the place. It's almost kind of, the way I hear it, is almost Limb by Limb's cousin. Taste and Limb by Limb, musically speaking. They sound very closely related. It's some people, according to the jam charts, consider it one of the best versions ever. I kind of think they all sound alike, which is not a bad thing. I love this song.
Yeah, they should play more Taste. That song's tasty. I like it.
It is indeed. Next up is Water in the Sky, which, I miss this. I'm such a traditionalist. I'm a Phish purist, sometimes to my own detriment, but it's the old country version.
I loved it. I mean, I was thinking when we were listening to it, I'm like, oh, it reminds me of Ginseng Sullivan,
Yeah.
Because
it was played this way. I looked it up until June 30th, 98 in Copenhagen. And then it joined Taste and Limb by Limb as the 1997 class of, I called it Fast Songs with Fishman on Cowbell.
Yeah. That's absolutely correct.
Class of 97.
Class of 97. I love it when Phish gets weird, though. I mean, even, he was getting weird with the cowbell back then. He's getting weird with his, effects box now. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After Water in the Sky, Punch You in the Eye, which I wrote down awesome spot for it. We're so used to it as a set opener, and just right in the middle of the first set. What a pump up energy jolt after Water in the Sky. And then they go right into Stash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Punch and Stash are two of my very favorite songs. I mean, there's no bad placement for a Punch You in the Eye. I mean, punch me in my eye at every show. I'll never be bored with it.
Apparently, the person who was standing right next to the mic of this audience recording that I used claps 3 times during Stash. How many times do you clap during the breaks in Stash?
Well, this is a controversial question. What are you trying to get me to admit, Brian?
we ask the hard questions here. I'm Barbara Walters.
Well, how many claps do you make, Brian?
2.
2.
That's how I heard it on a live one.
I feel like it's 3 fast claps though.
Maybe I just had shitty speakers.
That maybe.
How many times do you clap?
Well, and now I'm thinking about this. I'm like, huh.
All right, let's do it.
I think it is kind of a group think thing. It's who's clapping around you? You're clapping right along with them.
No, I am my own clapper.
You are your own clapper.
Let's do it. Oh, you do 3.
I do 3.
All right, you're a 3-time clapper.
Yeah, I am a 3-time clapper.
Musically, though, this Stash is something to listen to. I can't tell yet if it's going to be dark or light. Right when the jam starts, I was really on the edge of my seat, even though I've heard this a billion times. And it gets really close to Manteca. At some points, Trey's guitar tone is all over the place. He's repeating phrases instead of noodling. I wrote fairly nuts at some point. And yet it had a very sedate, ending. It kind of closes down a little bit before going into Chalk Dust.
Such good energy in that Chalk Dust too.
What were you thinking? Do you remember your attitude at this point? Like right in the thick of the first set, they're almost playing all jam songs.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, okay, because being a 17-year-old, Can't I Live While I'm Young, that just resonates. I mean, you love that song when you're that age, but I love that song at my current age too.
I do too. And I love that it's developed into a jam vehicle after being roughly the same straight ahead Zeppelin rock song for probably close to 30 something years. And now it's all of a sudden when they start it, you never know where it's going to go.
I'm never mad at a Zeppelin hard rock song though.
Can't be. And there's an insane solo in this Chalk Dust Torture. I figured this would end the set because even though it's only about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs. Chalk Dust is only the 6th song, and it's a standard, I think, hour and 13-minute set. And that's enough. That's standard. But they don't. They close it with A Day in the Life.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's one of the best closers ever. It was actually the encore of my first show.
That's right.
So, for my third Phish show, it's the second time I heard that.
Set 2.
The second set is really where things take off in this show. And that's not to say anything about the first set. The first set is fabulous. And for those of you at home who are only listening, Kate just made a little heart with her fingers and pushed it all the way to the front of the camera. Where does this set lie in your personal emotional history with Phish?
Oh my God, like some of the best Phish I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen some awesome Phish shows, but this is like the height of, that was the night that I was like, okay, I'm a Phish fan, buckle up. We're going to lots of shows now.
Right. So this is the set that did it for you.
Oh yeah.
And before we get into the music, I must say that it is insane, capital letters insane, that this set is an hour and 49 minutes. That's longer than most mainstream bands' full shows.
It's true.
You see a band like The Killers or Beyonce or whoever, but like Paul McCartney shows are about 2 hours long. And this single set is an hour and 49. It's unbelievable. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this set opening AC/DC back, but this is your show. What do you think of it?
Well, I mean, and to your point too, I mean, this whole set even has Beyonce moments in it. I mean,
only picture Fishman in a Beyonce dress, but you go on.
Well, okay, I meant Tom Marshall and the Fog Machines and everything.
Oh,
but yeah, I mean, the AC/DC bag, I mean, we hear it regularly as the second set opener. It always brings really awesome energy, and then it goes places. And this is no different. And it's probably the first. It's absolutely the first time I saw a second set AC/DC bag opener, and I'm happy every single time I hear it since.
See, and I'd have to push back a little bit on what you said, not emotionally, of course, because this is fabulous. It's definitely in contention for the best version of the song ever, but it is different. I think so, at least. I don't want to state it like a fact. I don't mean it that way. But
I didn't say that they played it the same. I said that, it's that same feeling. This is the first time I saw an AC/DC bag opener for the second set, and it blew minds. So
it blows minds.
Don't sweat it. Let's ride it out. Oh, carry me
a super long version. I still just, because this was my first, like, I love hearing an AC/DC bag second set opener every single time.
Me too. But this one in particular, Paige has teases, it drifts around. Like, I don't know what guitar effect is at about 7 minutes and 25 seconds, but I've always loved it. This is when I turn on Phish radio and Sirius, and without looking about what's being played, that effect at about 7 minutes and 30 seconds, that's the tell for me. It's this weird kind of backwards-ish. I don't know. I'm going to stumble. My vocabulary is not advanced enough to describe it. It's just so good, and it speaks right to my heart.
Love that.
And there are people, though, it should be noted, who at the time, if you remember, didn't really like the 97 funk. There were people who thought it was too repetitive and didn't go anywhere. And it was the same every night. I pity them, but right in the thick of this jam is probably what they meant.
It's interesting, though, because, when people say things like that, when I was at this show, I mean, Brian, put yourself back in the time and place, it's my third show. I don't have the internet, I don't know that people are saying this. So to me, I'm just along for the ride and just grateful to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I still feel that way. by the way. That, every time they do something fun and different or a good jam, even if it's one out of a whole show, I'm still grateful to be there. Although now Phish is much more accessible than they ever have been, at least recordings are, compared to what you were saying that you weren't able to get tapes or talk to people on Rec Music Phish and social media didn't exist. Now it's almost hyper accessible, or it's too accessible and people can get jaded so quickly. But not
sure.
this
People
point.
are mad when the set lists aren't, ready immediately.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And then after this monster AC/DC bag that runs for about a half hour, by the way, they go right into McGrupp, the part that you fast forward to. Why? What is it about this McGrupp?
Man. Well, McGrupp, it's it's the lead up to the Papa,
So it's an appetizer for you? Is that why?
To me, well, okay. I also just love the song McGrupp so much. I mean, if you ever meet my Jeep, its name is McGrupp.
Oh.
But this is just, it's, the every single time McGrupp takes you on a beautiful journey, and it's like you can just hear like Page is painting the scenery like with his keyboards. I mean, McGrupp I just love it. Just love it.
I do
and this
too.
This one's a long McGrupp too. I mean, and Page gets like real weird in the middle of it. So, I mean, and I am definitely, I grew up playing piano. I always connect to Page. I mean, Page side, Rage side is real. So, I play air keyboards when I dance around to Phish shows. I mean, if you ever see me at a show, like, just watch me do it because I'll do it the whole time. So
I hope I get to. I hope that in Mexico, I get to see you fire dance and play air keyboards. I don't even need to look at the stage.
Look for the inflatable banana. That's where our friends are going to be.
Okay, will do. And this this McGrupp, let's not get ahead of ourselves. McGrupp doesn't even have its ending. It doesn't have its coda. It goes directly into Harpua, which is why December 30th is always the night you don't miss.
Well, but that's also why I'm saying that's, when I, if I'm just looking for a perk up and I'm like, it's going to make me feel better, December 30th, 1997, I'll just skip straight to the McGrupp because it does feed right into the Harpua.
1,000%. And tell us about this Harpua.
Okay, well, I had never heard this song before because, again, it wasn't on any recordings that I'd heard, I'd only heard one live Phish show. This song is not on any of the studio albums. They play the song, and I mean, Harpua is a good song on its own. It's like dirty and funky, and then he starts getting into the narration part, and this is where, two kids who have never don't know that Phish does stuff like this. Go on a wild Harpua journey along with Trey to, watching Lost in Space in his, house to being taken outside and making a weird pentagram, contemplating olive leaf, the whole thing. You're like, what? Like, what is he even saying? Like literally hanging on every single word as the story just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, resulting in Fog Machine.
Of the robot. I know this is a long story, but it's very profound and important, so please listen. Changed my life. And at the foot of the robot is this utter ball squeezing squeak toy that I also had in my hand. So this completely, you know, I'm sitting here looking, here's this clearing in the other bowl, and suddenly I realize that the robot is sending messages directly into my brain from the TV. And the messages are telling me, for the next week, I want you to collect little bits of food from the kitchen table whenever you have a meal and put it in your lunchbox and bring it to school. So the next morning, I wake up and I go to breakfast and we had fried eggs, and I put a fried egg into my lunchbox and I brought it to school. I still don't know what all this means. And, you know, dinner that night, we had a steak and I put a steak into my lunchbox. Olives, you know, olive loaf, the whole thing, and little bits of food. And every day I'm bringing the stuff in my lunchbox to school. Well, on Friday of that week, I suddenly had a profound feeling that I needed to be drawn to this spot out behind the middle school. And I started walking with my lunchbox full of food. Now, when I got to this little clearing that I had seen in the Lost in Space episode, I noticed that burned into the ground, there was a pentagram burned into the grass, a star, a 5-pointed star. Now I was 10 years old, so I opened up my lunchbox, and I take out the fried egg. And I knew what I had to do. I placed it on one corner of the pentagram and the star. And then I reached in and I took out the steak, and I placed it on the next corner of the star. I reached into my lunchbox and I pulled out the olive loaf. I placed it on the next corner of the star. Olive loaf. I then reached into my lunchbox and I pulled out a carton of milk. I placed the carton of milk on the third star of the pentagram. I reached into my lunchbox. I pulled out a sloppy Joe. I placed it on the fourth star.
This guy coming out in the middle of it, and like, we don't know who he is. Who's this random guy? Is he one of like the Scottish guys? So, and you know, Tom Marshall in a suit with the glasses when I wake up, and you know, one of the most popular songs of the 90s. I mean, we freaked out. Of course we freaked out. I mean, wow, you know, how are you not a fan for life forever after this Harpua? Holy crap.
How was your boyfriend at the time taking it?
Oh man, he loved it too. I mean, so, you know, let's all transport back into the 90s. You know, my first boyfriend was a very sweet guy who, you know, he wanted to be Dave Matthews when he grew up. The guy playing acoustic guitar at all, like the little friend parties when you're 15 and 16 and you can't go anywhere. So other than like your friend's basement in New Jersey. So yeah, you know, he loved it too. He was a big music fan. So
when they played I'm Gonna Be, I have to tell you, I'm not gonna lie, I was caught up in that song when it was huge. I was listening to Z100 all the time, top 5 at 9, hoping that they would play that, and they did every time. So when they started singing, or when I say they, Trey and Tom Marshall, and the chorus of da la la da, and they started singing Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter. Oh my gosh, that's another one. We were like, is he saying Hannibal Lecter?
You know, I'm a middle school teacher, and that joke of changing the lyrics from da la la da to Hannibal Lecter, it's the exact same joke that a couple of 14-year-olds in their basement in New Jersey would make. And
absolutely.
That's the bane, right? That's the bane of Phish. It's jokes they think are funny backstage and then sharing it with 18,000 people.
When I'm walking, I know I'm gonna be the man who's walking hard for you. When the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, I know I'm gonna be the man who's coming home to you. And if I go home, hey, I know I'm gonna be the man who's going home to you. And I walk 500 miles, and I
I mean, we're just a bunch of weirdos co-creating the experience with a bunch of weirdos who are making it.
Well said. And after Harpua ends, I wrote, well, why not just blow the roof off the world's most famous arena? Why not just get a machine gun and just tear the whole place down? And they broke out Isabella.
So good. I mean, and that was another one that, we knew it because Jimi Hendrix. We didn't know it because of Phish.
Yeah, it's Phish. They're the gateway drug to not every, but so much music. You unlock your love of Phish, and you are now discovering an entire world that you may or may not have known existed in the world of music around you. And wow, Machine Gun Trey is there. 1997, people just associate it with funk, but wow, was this band on fire?
Oh my, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, shoot. After re-listening to this, I regretted leaving the Baker's Dozen the day early and missing the recent Isabella.
Man, we're talking about a lot of ones that got away tonight. But yeah, like Machine Gun Trey mixed with Band of Gypsies, Jimi Hendrix, that makes it the biggest party in New York City, right around New Year's Eve. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
So
when Fishman yells, go, go, in the end, it's something to pay attention to.
I re-listening to this, you hear the go, go, but, when you're at the show, that's not what you hear, so that's one of the beautiful things of being able to revisit the music.
Thank a taper today. Always thank
every
a taper.
Time.
Yep. And they followed that up with Harry Hood. If Isabella ended the set, no one would complain. But now we're at one of their best songs.
Oh man, one of the best versions of one of their best songs with all the crazy, awesome synth sounds and loop-de-loos in it. I mean, I love this version of Hood.
I wanted to ask you, and if you remember this, around 8 minutes, there's a lot of audience cheers. I assume it's for a glow stick war, but I wanted to ask if you remember. It's right in the middle of the jam, and there's nothing spectacular musically going on. There's no solo peaks. There's no new sounds. If you don't remember, you don't remember. I just figured it was worth a shot to ask.
I mean, I don't remember, but, everyone was still just all giddy on Tom Marshall, So,
I'm sure he'd love to hear that.
I mean, I'm sure it probably was just, glow sticks and people being, just generally excited, because I don't remember anything specific. that doesn't mean that something really cool wasn't happening in, the 100 level below us and we just didn't see it, but
After that fabulous jam of Harry Hood, they followed up with kind of a pair of fairly normal songs, considering what's going on in this ridiculous set of My Soul and Sleeping Monkey. And when I was re-listening to it, getting ready to speak with you, once Sleeping Monkey came around, I have to say, this is the set that just won't end. And they did close it eventually with Gaiute almost 2 hours after the set began. Wow.
that's another, it's so good, it's and it doesn't even matter that it's like slightly teeny little bit of flubs in there. I mean, that it went places. People were with them. Everyone was along for the ride. Loved it.
And these days, Phish is very exact. They're very precise at the timing of their sets and at the shows. They look at the clocks that are on the sides of the stage. They know how long they've been on. They know how much more they have to play until they take their breaks. They have to end at a certain time to make sure that they get off stage. That seemed to kind of drift over the edge here because they come on for the encore and they play Carini. It's funny to hear now the almost silent response it gets from the audience compared to what we hear now. But this encore is made up of, let's see, Carini, Black Eyed Katie, Sneakin' Sally reprise, by the way. And then they close with Frankenstein, a 45-minute encore. What train did you take to get home?
I mean, whatever the last one was of the night, I don't remember, but it was definitely, I mean, I remember coming out of this one, we're like, we got to run downstairs right now.
Growing up in either New Jersey or Long Island, where I grew up, you really become an expert at navigating the tunnels of Madison Square Garden to get to Penn Station as quickly as you can. You know exactly where you're going, right?
Oh, yeah.
To get to that track.
Well, and even as a kid growing up in the area, I mean, I don't know if you grew up with Long Island sports teams, but, I grew up in a family that was, Yankees, Knicks, Giants. So, I'd been to Madison Square Garden before, with my dad for basketball games, as a kid. So, not the first rodeo, even though it's, the third time I'd been allowed to go by myself.
Yeah, not the same. I grew up Yankees, Knicks, and Rangers. We were football agnostic. We didn't have.
But that point is that, so if you had 2 extra reasons to go to Madison Square Garden. So, you're going for Rangers games, you're going for Knicks games. So you already have the lay of the land, like before you're even going for fishy purposes, just being someone who grows up in the area.
Yeah, no, I knew the blueprint basically, but yeah, it's this encore, I believe, is about 40 minutes. The rumor that I've heard and that many have heard is that Phish broke curfew with the beginning of Carini because the second set was so long. And once you break curfew at MSG, you pay for the hour of overtime.
So you may as well play for the whole hour then.
That's the rumor that they didn't just go over, they went all out. And since they had the hour, they made the best use of what they paid for. So they opened.
They really did.
Yeah. They opened the encore with Carini, that the next few shows would be where the Don't Let Carini Get You would come up during the Island tour, right? In early 1998, after the New Year's run 97. Black Eyed Katie, the proto MoMA dance, which is less a song than more an exercise in funk jamming, but it works for me. And then they just play Sneakin' Sally again, just for the hell of it.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, everyone loved it because, everyone loves a good reprise. Like, harkens back to earlier in the show. It's a uniting moment. I mean, people were stoked. We loved it.
And they closed the whole show with Frankenstein, which is, I mean, it's virtually a third set at this point.
It's one of the best clothing songs of ever, I mean, Frankenstein always brings big energy.
And this one has like an extra long chaos section in the middle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's even before they get to the vacuum playing.
And fabulous. I mean, no one could have walked out of this show displeased. I'm sure someone did, because that's just the nature of Phish fans. But
no one hates Phish more than a Phish fan, right?
Exactly. But no, I can't imagine a hater on this show. And if you are, maybe I should have you on too, because I gotta get inside that brain. Oh, but wow, what a show. Like I said, I think it pairs perfectly with the night before. But if you're picking a favorite between the 29th and 30th or saying which one's better, it's just like saying, I don't know, you can't go wrong. It's picking a winner. It's like $1 million or $1,001. There's really no way to pick a favorite here.
Oh man, I mean, I like listening back to the whole run, the 29th is obviously, I mean, one of the technically like just most stunning shows they've ever played. But this one for me, I mean, it's like we're saying, the Beyonce moment, the fog and, the 500 miles and just the extra weird and that it's a super long show too. I mean, you never want it to end and it kind of doesn't.
So, Kate, thank you so much for being on Attendance Bias again today. You're the greatest. Thanks for bringing the energy, for talking about December 30th, 1997. And before we cut out of here, remind us again of everything you have to say regarding your fire dancing and the accessibility of being able to see it.
Yes. So you can watch us on Purple Bee TV. That's the social media. It's the @purple color B, little insects. TV, television. If you follow Purple Bee on social media, we announce all the live streams. Also on my personal Twitter and Instagram, which is just @Kate Fuego. I always post when we do streams too. So just follow me, follow Purple Bee. We'll post the links to where you can find, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, and our shows on Decentraland as well.
And again, all of those links will be available in the show notes when this episode airs. So, Kate, thank you again for taking the time and for having such a great discussion.
Well, thank you.
And that's it for today's conversation with Kate of Austin, Texas. Since we were discussing a show that is nearly 25 years old, the emotion still hits hard, but sometimes the facts don't hit quite as hard. There are still a few corrections to be made for today's Attendance Bias Fact Check.
Attendance Bias Fact Check.
When discussing the 1997 holiday run, I brought up that the show on December 28th is kind of the black sheep of the family. They played the show at the US Air Arena in Landover, Maryland, which they only played once before on November 22nd, 1995, and they haven't played the venue since. Well, there's a good reason for that. The arena no longer exists. Its name changed to the Capitol Center before closing in 1999, and then the building was demolished in 2002. The show opening Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley was the first version played in 920 shows up to that point. The previous time it had been played was on May 28, 1989, at Ian McClain's party, according to Phish.net. That show is different from the more popular Ian's Farm show, which was played on August 21st, 1987. Both shows are available on Phish.in. And finally, after discussing AC/DC Bag, the second set opener, I said that the song runs for, quote, about half an hour. The official timing of that track is 25 minutes and 25 seconds, so I guess I rounded up. But that's it, and that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank Kate Houlihan for joining me today, Phish.net for the extensive help during the fact check, and Phish.in for the recording used in today's episode. And if you enjoy Attendance Bias, please support the show by leaving a rating and a review of it on your favorite podcast app. And follow Attendance Bias on social media. I am most active on Instagram and Twitter. If you reach out and say hello, I'll send you a free sticker. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next week on Attendance Bias.